Small towns are supposed to feel safe. Everybody knows everybody. Doors stay unlocked. People wave from porches like nothing bad ever happens there. But sometimes, that's exactly why bad things happen. Because when the world is quiet, you notice the wrong sounds more clearly. When the streets are empty, you can tell when you're being followed. And when everyone thinks they know the people around them, that's when you realize you never really did. These are 5 true small-town horror stories, told the way they were told to me. I grew up in a town so small that if a dog ran away, the whole place knew before dinner. We had one grocery store, one high school, and miles of farmland that wrapped around everything like an ocean of dirt and green. In the fall, the cornfields got tall. Taller than a person. Taller than a truck in some places. And when the wind moved through it, it sounded like whispering. That sound is the first thing I remember from the night it happened. I was 17, and my best friend Cody had a beat-up pickup that always smelled like gasoline and old fries. He was the kind of guy who acted fearless, mostly because he didn't want anyone to see how nervous he actually was. That Friday night, we were bored in the way only small towns can make you bored. No movies. No mall. Nothing open after 9 besides the gas station. So Cody says, "Let's go out to Miller Road." Miller Road was where the fields got thick, where the trees closed in, and where the streetlights gave up. People told stories about that road, of course. People always do. Cody called it a rumor road. Somewhere you take someone if you want to scare them. I should have said no. But I didn't. We picked up a couple sodas, and his truck rumbled out past the last houses, past the last mailbox, and into the dark. At first it was normal. Just dirt road, corn on both sides, and the truck's headlights cutting 2 sharp tunnels through the night. The radio kept fading in and out like it couldn't decide if it wanted to work. Then Cody slowed down and pointed. "See that?" he said. At first I didn't. Then I noticed something pale stuck on a fence post near the edge of the field. A white cloth, maybe? Or a plastic bag. Cody pulled over anyway. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Just checking," he said, like that made sense. We got out, and the night hit me. Cold and damp. The air smelled like wet dirt, and that sharp green smell corn has when it's broken. The truck's engine ticked softly, cooling down. We walked up to the fence post. The white thing wasn't a bag. It was a strip of cloth. And it looked like it had been tied there on purpose. Cody tugged it and frowned. "Weird." Then we heard it. A sound from inside the cornfield. Not the wind. Not an animal. It was a slow, steady crunching. Like someone was walking carefully, stepping on dry leaves and stalks. Cody froze. I froze. We both stared at that wall of corn. The stalks didn't move much at first. Then, about 20 feet in, something shifted. A dark shape, just barely visible between the rows. Cody tried to laugh. "Probably a deer." But he didn't sound convinced. I said, "Let's go." Cody nodded too fast. We started backing up toward the truck. The crunching got quicker. Closer. The stalks began to part slightly, like whoever it was had turned toward us. Then a voice came out of the corn. Not loud. Not angry. Just calm. "Don't go yet." It didn't sound like a teenager. It didn't sound like someone messing around. It sounded like a grown man, talking like he had all the time in the world. Cody whispered. What the? The voice spoke again. Come closer. I can't see you. I grabbed Cody's sleeve. Get in the truck. Cody backed up faster now. We reached the driver's side. That's when the stalks burst apart. A man stepped out of the corn, and in the headlights, I saw him clearly. He was tall. Too tall. And thin like he hadn't eaten right in a long time. He wore dark overalls and a jacket, but what I noticed most was his face. His face was pale, almost gray, and his mouth was smiling in a way that didn't match his eyes. His eyes were wide and shiny, like he was excited. He raised one hand, and in the other, he had something long. At first I thought it was a tool. Then I realized it was a knife. Not a kitchen knife. Something bigger. Like a hunting knife, long enough that it caught the light with every tiny movement. Cody fumbled for his keys. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped them once. The man took a step forward. Still smiling. Why'd you stop? He asked, like we were rude for not staying. I got the passenger door open and climbed in, practically falling. Cody got the keys, shoved them into the ignition, and turned. The truck didn't start. Cody's eyes went wide with panic. He tried again. The engine coughed and died. The man was coming closer now. Not running. Just walking steady, like he knew the truck wasn't going anywhere. I looked in the side mirror and saw something that made my stomach twist. Behind us, deeper in the corn, there were shapes. Not one. 2. Maybe 3. Moving. Quietly. Like they'd been waiting. I shouted, Cody, go! He turned the key again. The truck sputtered, then roared to life. Cody slammed it into gears so hard the whole truck jerked, and we shot forward, gravel spitting behind us. In the rearview mirror, I saw the man step back into the corn like he'd done this 100 times. Like he was used to cars escaping. We didn't stop until we hit town, until the streetlights returned and the houses came back and everything felt normal again. We pulled into a parking lot, and just sat there breathing hard. Cody kept whispering, What was that? What was that? I didn't know. We told the sheriff the next day. He listened with that tired look adults get when they think you're exaggerating. He said, Probably a farmer trying to scare you boys. But I knew farmers. Farmers don't stand in the dark smiling with a knife. 2 days later, Cody called me and his voice sounded strange. Dude, he said, go check your mailbox. I walked outside, opened it, and saw something inside. A strip of white cloth. The same kind as the one tied to the fence post. And tied to it was a single corn husk. Inside the husk was a tiny, folded square of paper. I opened it. It had 3 words written in shaky handwriting. Don't stop again. That night I locked every window. Every door. I slept with a baseball bat next to my bed. And around 2:13 a.m., I woke up to a sound outside my window. A slow, steady crunching. Like someone walking through dry stalks. Only, there was no corn outside my window. Just my backyard. And when I finally forced myself to look, I saw the fence line. And on the top post, hanging in the moonlight, was another strip of white cloth, fluttering like a flag. In a small town, the church isn't just a church. It's where the town breathes. Weddings, funerals, food drives, Sunday gossip, everything. In my town, there was an old church at the edge of the woods. White paint that peeled in strips. A bell tower that leaned slightly, like it was tired. And a basement nobody liked going into alone. I was 19 when I took a part-time job there. It wasn't even official. Just cash. The pastor, Pastor Lyle, said they needed help cleaning up after events and organizing storage. It's easy, he told me. Mostly sweeping, stacking chairs. You'll be done by sundown. The first week was fine. Dusty, boring. The kind of work you do with your brain turned off. Then one afternoon, he handed me a ring of keys. I need you to take these, he said, and clean the basement. I stared at him. The basement? He smiled like it was nothing. It's just storage. But I saw something in his eyes. A tiny flicker of relief, like he was happy it wouldn't be him going down there. The basement door was behind the altar, half hidden by a curtain. The stairs were wooden and steep. The air coming up smelled damp and old, like wet cardboard. I turned on the light. It flickered. Of course it did. I went down slowly, each step creaking like it wanted to warn me. At the bottom, the basement opened into a wide room with shelves and boxes and old furniture covered in sheets. It was colder down there, the kind of cold that feels like it's coming from inside the walls. I started cleaning. Sweeping dust, moving boxes. And then I noticed something. A door. Not the basement door I came through. Another door on the far wall. Metal. Painted gray. And it had a padlock. That struck me as odd. Churches don't usually lock storage inside their storage. I walked closer, broom in hand, and saw scratches around the lock. Like someone had tried to pull it open. Like fingernails had scraped at it. I leaned in and listened. Silence. I told myself it was nothing. Old building. Old lock. Maybe they kept donations in there. I went back to work. About 20 minutes later, the basement light flickered again, and I heard a sound. A soft knock. Not from upstairs. From the metal door. I froze, broom stopped mid-sweep. Then, another knock. 3 slow taps. I didn't breathe. I waited. Nothing. My mind tried to explain it. Pipes. Building settling. A mouse. But then a voice came through the door. It was quiet. Like someone whispering close to metal. Hello? I dropped the broom. I backed up so fast my heel caught a box and I nearly fell. The voice spoke again. Please, are you the one who brings food? My throat went dry. I stared at the door, at the lock, at the scratches. I forced out a word. Who is that? A pause. Then, don't leave. My body went cold all at once. I turned and ran up the stairs 2 at a time, nearly tripping. I slammed the basement door behind me, heart pounding like it was trying to break out. I found Pastor Lyle in his office. Someone's down there, I said, breathless. Behind the metal door. His face changed. Not surprise. Not confusion. Fear. He stood up slowly. No, he said quietly. I heard them, I insisted. They talked to me. Pastor Lyle swallowed hard. You didn't open it, did you? No. It's locked. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. Good. Who is it? I demanded. Why is there a locked door in the basement? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, You need to forget what you heard. I stared at him. Are you serious? He stood and walked past me, toward the sanctuary. The basement is off limits now, he said. I'll pay you for today. Just don't go back down there. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because once someone tells you to forget something in a small town, it sticks in your head like a hook. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing that voice through the door. Don't leave. At around 1 a.m., I got in my car and drove back to the church. I told myself I was going to prove it was nothing. Maybe I imagined it. The church was dark, sitting alone under the moon like a dead thing. I let myself in with the keys. Inside, everything echoed. My footsteps sounded too loud. I went to the basement door and opened it. The stairs down seemed darker at night, like the shadows were heavier. The light switch didn't work at first. Then it flickered on. I walked to the metal door. I leaned close. At first, nothing. Then, a whisper. You came back. My skin prickled. Who are you? I whispered back. A soft, breathy laugh. You can hear me. Why are you in there? A pause. Then, they put me here. Who did? They said I was sick. I swallowed. What's your name? Another pause. Mary. I didn't know any Mary in town that went missing. I didn't remember any funeral. I stared at the lock. I shouldn't have. I know that. But I reached out and touched it anyway. Cold metal. The voice whispered, Open it. I pulled my hand back. I can't. You have keys. I shook my head like she could see it. Not for that lock. Then break it. My heart hammered. Something felt wrong. Too wrong. I backed away. I'm going to get help. No. The voice sharpened suddenly. No help. I froze. Just you, Mary whispered. I only want you. That's when I noticed the scratches again. Deep. Messy. Like someone had tried to claw their way out. And beneath them, darker stains. Old stains. I turned to leave. Behind me, Mary's voice changed. It dropped lower, rougher, like it wasn't trying to sound kind anymore. Don't leave me. The words weren't pleading. They were a warning. I ran up the stairs again and slammed the door. I locked the church behind me and drove home shaking. The next day, Pastor Lau called me. You went back, he said, voice flat. I didn't answer. He sighed. It talks. That's what it does. What do you mean it? He paused. Then said, Years ago, something came to this town. It wore faces. It wore voices. It learned what people wanted to hear. My stomach turned. So, Mary isn't real? She was, he said quietly. At first. He told me something I still don't like repeating. He said that decades ago, a young woman named Mary really did come to the church for help. People said she was troubled. People said she was not right. And the church, the town, locked her away. Down there. And something happened in that basement that they never spoke about again. Pastor Lau's last words on the phone were, It learned her voice. That night, I woke up to a soft knocking sound. 3 taps. Coming from my bedroom wall. Not the door. The wall. Then a whisper close to my ear like someone was standing right beside my bed. You have keys. If you've ever lived in a small town, you know the diner. The one place that never really changes. Same booths. Same coffee smell. Same old guys at the counter every morning. In my town, it was Harlow's Diner. I worked there one summer after graduation. Mostly night shifts, because I needed the money and nobody else wanted them. The last shift I ever worked there started normal. It was a Tuesday. Slow. Hot outside, but the diner felt like a fridge because the AC was always too strong. By 11 p.m., it was just me, the cook named Ray, and one truck driver drinking coffee in the corner booth. Around midnight, the truck driver left. Ray started cleaning the grill. Then the bell above the front door jingled. I looked up. A man walked in. He was wearing a dark coat even though it was warm out. His hair was damp like he'd been walking a long time. He didn't look at the menu. Didn't look around. He just walked straight to the farthest booth, the one nobody liked because the light above it flickered. He slid in and sat perfectly still. I grabbed a notepad and walked over, trying to sound cheerful. "Hey there," I said. "Coffee?" The man looked up slowly. His eyes were wrong. Not in a dramatic way. Just flat. Like they didn't react the way eyes should. He smiled a little. "Yes." His voice was soft and polite. I poured coffee and set it down. "You want anything to eat?" He stared at the coffee like he didn't recognize it. Then he said, "No. Just coffee." I nodded and walked back behind the counter. Ray leaned over and whispered, "You know him?" I shook my head. Ray frowned. "He's weird." I watched the man from the counter. He didn't drink. He didn't move. Just sat there with his hands folded. After a while, I got uncomfortable and walked back over. "You doing okay?" I asked. The man's eyes flicked up to me. "Do you close soon?" Yeah. 1 a.m. He nodded slowly like he was memorizing it. "And you lock the door?" "Yeah," I said, trying to laugh. "That's usually how it works." He smiled again. "Good." A chill went through me. Something about the way he said it made it sound like he was glad for the lock, not for safety, but for something else. I walked back to the counter and told Ray quietly, "I don't like him." Ray wiped his hands on his apron. "Want me to tell him to leave?" I hesitated. Then I said, "Just keep an eye." The clock hit 12:45. The man finally lifted the cup and took a sip. Then he set it down and stood up. He walked to the restroom. The restroom was in the back hall, past the kitchen. I watched him go, feeling uneasy. 10 minutes passed. Ray said, "He's taking forever." I nodded and walked toward the back hall, stopping near the kitchen doorway. "Sir?" I called. "You okay back there?" No answer. I took a few steps down the hall. The restroom door was closed. I knocked lightly. "Sir?" Still nothing. Then I heard a sound from inside the restroom. A slow, wet dragging sound. Like something heavy being pulled across tile. I stepped back, heart thumping. Ray came up behind me. "What's going on?" "I don't know," I whispered. "He's been in there." The restroom door swung open. The man stood there. But now his coat looked different. Bulkier. Like something was underneath it. His smile was wider. "Sorry," he said softly. "Had to wash up." Ray stared at him. "You need anything else?" The man looked past Ray, down the hall, like he was examining the building. Then he said, "Just leaving." He walked out, calm as ever. The bell jingled again. Ray and I stood there in silence. Then Ray muttered, "I'm checking that bathroom." He went in first. I followed behind him, staying at the doorway. Ray flicked on the light. And then he froze. His face went pale. "Call the sheriff," he whispered. The bathroom sink was full of something dark. Not water. Not coffee. Blood. And on the floor, in the corner, was a thick wad of hair. Like someone had cut it off and stuffed it there. I felt sick. "What the?" Ray pointed at the mirror. There were words written on it, smeared like they'd been spelled with wet fingers. "Thank you for locking up." We called the sheriff. They came fast. They searched the diner, the back alley, the dumpsters. They didn't find anyone. But they did find something else. In the back hall, behind a stack of old soda crates, there was a small access door we never noticed before. It led into a crawl space under the building. It smelled horrible down there. Like rot. And inside that crawl space, the police found blankets, empty food wrappers, and pictures. Dozens of pictures. Some were of the diner from outside. Some were of the parking lot. And some were of me. Behind the counter. Carrying plates. Smiling at customers. Photos taken from across the street. Taken through the windows. And the newest photo, placed neatly on top, was taken that same night. It showed me standing in the back hall near the restroom. And in the dark behind me, barely visible, was the outline of a man in a dark coat. Standing close. Too close. I quit the next day. Harlow's closed a month later. Ray moved away. The sheriff said they never found the man. But sometimes, when I drive through that town, I pass the boarded-up diner. And I swear, if I look at the windows at the right angle, I can see a shape sitting in the farthest booth, still waiting for closing time. In small towns, houses don't disappear. Not really. Even if they burn down, even if they rot, people still talk about them. There was one house outside my town, down a gravel lane, hidden behind trees. Everyone called it the Renshaw place. It had been empty for years. The family left suddenly. Nobody really agreed on why. Some said debt. Some said tragedy. Some said the house was just wrong. I never cared until my cousin Jenna and I got stupid one night. We were 20 and bored, driving around with no destination. Jenna was the kind of person who dared you into bad decisions like it was a hobby. She said, "Let's go to the Renshaw place." I laughed like it was a joke, but she turned the wheel. The lane was rough, weeds growing in the middle. Trees leaned in like they wanted to block the road. When the house finally appeared in the headlights, it looked worse than I expected. 2 stories. Dark windows. Porch sagging. Jenna parked. "We're just looking," she said. We got out. The air smelled like wet leaves and old wood. We stepped onto the porch. It groaned under our weight. The front door was shut, but the lock was broken. Jenna pushed, and the door creaked open like it hadn't moved in years. Inside, the smell hit me, mildew, dust, something stale. Our flashlights cut through the dark. The living room was empty except for a ripped couch and a TV stand with no TV. Then Jenna stopped and pointed at the wall. A phone. An old landline phone, mounted to the wall like it belonged in the 90s. It looked clean compared to everything else. Like someone had wiped the dust off. Jenna smirked. "No way that works," I stepped closer. The cord was still attached. The receiver sat perfectly on the hook. Then the phone rang. A sharp, loud ring that made my whole body jerk. Jenna laughed nervously. Okay, that's probably a prank thing. It rang again. I stared at it like it was alive. Jenna reached out. I'm answering. Don't, I said too late. She lifted the receiver. Hello? She said, trying to sound brave. Her face changed. She went still, eyes fixed on nothing. Then she whispered, How do you know my name? My stomach dropped. Who is it? I mouthed. Jenna shook her head slowly like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Then she held the receiver out to me. It's for you. I didn't want to take it. But my hand moved anyway, like curiosity was pulling the strings. I put it to my ear. A man's voice came through, low and calm. I'm glad you came, he said. My heart pounded. Who is this? He chuckled softly. You don't remember. But you will. The line crackled. Then he said something that made my blood go cold. Look behind the couch. I didn't move. Jenna whispered. What did he say? The voice repeated slower. Behind the couch. I lowered the phone slightly. This isn't funny. He sighed like I disappointed him. It's not for fun. Then he said, You shouldn't have brought her. Jenna's eyes widened. What? The phone went dead. I pulled it away, staring at it, breathing hard. Jenna whispered, Let's go. We turned toward the door. And the phone rang again. This time, it rang 3 times fast, like it was urgent. Jenna didn't want to answer, but the ringing felt like it filled the whole house, bouncing off the walls, pressing on my skull. I picked it up. The same voice. He sounded closer now, like he wasn't just on the line. Like he was in the house with us. She's in the kitchen, he said. My throat tightened. Who is? He didn't answer that. Instead, he said, Tell her not to open the pantry. Jenna tugged my sleeve. We're leaving. Now. We started walking quickly toward the front door, flashlights shaking. Then Jenna stopped. What's that? She whispered. From somewhere deeper in the house, we heard a faint sound. A soft, rhythmic tapping. Like fingernails on wood. Coming from the kitchen. The kitchen was down a short hallway. The doorway was open. We shined our lights. At first, nothing. Then my beam caught the pantry door. It was slightly cracked open. Just an inch. The tapping came again. From inside. Jenna backed up, breathing fast. No. Nope. The phone rang again. I didn't even remember putting it down, but there it was, ringing on the hook like it never left. I grabbed it without thinking. The voice whispered, Too late. The tapping stopped. And the pantry door creaked open wider, slow and careful, like something inside was pushing it. Jenna screamed and ran for the front door. I ran after her. We burst out onto the porch, nearly falling down the steps. We sprinted to the car, jumped in, and Jenna turned the key. The engine didn't start. She tried again. Nothing. Behind us, from inside the house, the phone rang. Even through the walls, even through the closed door, we could hear it. Ring. 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 Jenna's hands shook so badly she dropped the keys into her lap. Start, start! I hissed. The engine finally caught. We tore down the lane, gravel spraying, trees whipping past. We didn't talk until we reached the main road. Jenna's voice was shaking. That was real. I nodded, staring straight ahead. When I got home, I couldn't sleep. My ears felt like they were still ringing. Around 3 a.m., I heard a sound in my room. A phone ringing. But I didn't have a landline. I sat up slowly, heart racing. The ringing wasn't loud like a normal phone. It was softer. Closer. Like it was coming from inside my closet. Ring. 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 I didn't open it. I didn't move. And after the third ring, a voice whispered from the dark. I told you you'd remember. This happened in a town so small that the police department shared a building with the post office. My sister Leah and I were renting a little house on the edge of town while I saved money for college. It was quiet. Almost too quiet. We got used to the silence. And then we got used to the knocking. It started on a Sunday night. 2 knocks on the front door. Not loud. Just firm enough to make you look up. Leah and I paused our movie and stared at each other. Did you order something? She asked. I shook my head and stood up. I looked through the peephole. There was a boy on the porch. Maybe 10 or 11. Thin. Wearing a hoodie. His head was slightly down like he didn't want to show his face. I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. Hey, I said. You okay? The boy looked up slowly. His eyes were red like he'd been crying. His lips were pale. He said, Can I use your phone? I hesitated. Where are your parents? He pointed behind him toward the street. They are not here. Leah came up behind me and whispered, Don't. The boy's voice trembled. Please. I almost said yes. He was a kid. It felt wrong to turn him away. But something in his face didn't match his voice. Like his expression was delayed. I asked, What's your name? He blinked slowly. Evan. Where do you live, Evan? He pointed again. Down the road. Leah whispered again, sharper now. Close the door. I didn't want to be cruel, but my instincts were buzzing. I can call someone for you, I said. You can stay on the porch. His eyes flicked past me. Into the house. Then he smiled. Just a little. No, he said. I need to come in. That's when Leah slammed her hand on the door and pushed it shut. The boy's face stayed in the crack for a moment, squeezed by the closing door. And in that split second, I saw something that made my stomach flip. His teeth were wrong. Too many. Too close together. Like they didn't fit his mouth. Leah locked the door and backed away. We stood there, listening. Silence. Then 2 knocks again. Same rhythm. Firm. Leah whispered, Don't answer. I looked through the peephole again. The boy was gone. I opened the curtain slightly and looked out the window. The porch was empty. Leah exhaled shakily. Okay. It's fine. He left. But then, 2 knocks came again. Not on the front door. On the back door. We both froze. The back door was on the other side of the house. That meant whoever it was moved fast. I grabbed my phone. I'm calling the police. The line rang. No answer. Just ringing. Then the knocking came again, this time on the kitchen window. 2 knocks. Same rhythm. Leah covered her mouth. How is he? The knocking moved again. 2 knocks on the hallway window. Then 2 knocks on the living room window. Like something was circling the house, testing every weak spot. Leah grabbed a kitchen knife. It looked ridiculous in her shaking hand. I grabbed a heavy lamp. We stayed in the middle of the living room, backs almost touching, listening. The knocking stopped. For a long time. We thought maybe it gave up. Then, from the front door, we heard a soft voice. Leah's face went white. It was the boy's voice. But it didn't sound like a boy anymore. It sounded older. Thicker. Like someone pretending. "Let me in," it said calmly. Leah whispered. "Stop." The voice continued, as if it didn't hear her. "I'm cold." Then it said something that made my blood run cold. "You already looked at my teeth." Leah started crying silently. I backed toward my bedroom, grabbed my car keys, and whispered, "We're leaving through the garage." Our garage door connected to a side hallway. We moved quietly. We reached the hallway. And there, on the hallway window, were 2 fresh marks on the glass. Like someone had tapped it from the other side. 2 knocks. Leah grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. Then the garage door handle rattled. Not violently. Just a gentle test, like someone checking if it was locked. We stood there, frozen. The handle stopped. Then a voice came from right outside the garage door. Soft. Patient. "You should have let me in the first time," Leah whispered. "What is that?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. Then the voice said, almost like it was smiling, "It's okay. I'll come in later." After that, everything went still. No knocking. No rattling. Just silence. We waited a full minute, shaking, listening. Then we ran to the car, got in, and drove straight to Leah's friend's house on the other side of town. We didn't sleep. In the morning, we went back with her friend's dad and a baseball bat. The house looked normal. Quiet. Peaceful. No footprints on the porch. No marks. Nothing. But on the front door, right under the peephole, there were 2 small smudges. Like 2 fingertips had pressed there. And taped beneath them, like someone left us a note, was a strip of paper. On it, written in neat letters, were 3 words. "Knock twice back." We moved out that week. And for months after, sometimes, in the middle of the night, I would wake up and swear I heard it. 2 knocks. Not on my door. Not on my window. But inside my room. Like something had finally found a way in. Small towns are full of quiet places, and quiet places have room for things to hide. So tell me, which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.